Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Carli Dansky, thank you so much for joining us and being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm so excited about our time together. I think I told you I spent some time on your website, and I'm super excited to have your story on tape for our listeners. Like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go all the way up to today, and then we can talk about anything that you're working on today and or for tomorrow, okay?
That sounds great, Mike. Excited to be here.
Great to have you. So tell us where you were born.
I was born in New Jersey.
Really? The Garden State?
Garden State. I'm a Jersey girl.
I love it. Did you grow up there?
I grew up there, yeah.
Okay.
I grew up in Jersey.
What was your favorite thing about growing up in New Jersey?
The bubble. You know, where I was in Jersey, you're kind of like in a bubble.
Okay.
It felt very suburban, very shielded from the rest of the world. That's kind of how it felt being there.
Okay.
I know Jersey gets a bad rap, but where I grew up, it felt, safe, and everyone played out in the neighborhood, and it kind of just felt like your own little bubble. But it was good because you were close to the beach, but you were also like close to the city. So growing up, we would go to the city to see the tree, and then in the summer we were close to the beaches. So I guess it's kind of the best of both worlds. We were
Almost like your own little Norman Rockwell painting, right?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. People I think give Jersey a bad rap, but it's not the worst.
Actually, I've interviewed a few people that grew up in New Jersey.
Okay.
And almost all of them say the exact same thing you're saying. So, I think Jersey gets a bad rap for the wrong reasons. It's a beautiful place. It's absolutely gorgeous. And a lot of people have really enjoyed growing up there, and they have similar stories to yours. So, so let me ask you this. Where did you graduate from high school?
So I went to Freehold Borough High School. I went there because they had a culinary program at the time. So at that time, I was going that route to be a chef. So
learning a trade kind of thing.
Yeah. So it was everything regular high school. It's just in high school, you can have these extra kind of classes, and you can pick what they are. When you did that, you went to that school, all of those classes were catered toward culinary, and there was a restaurant in the school that the students ran.
Wow.
And that's what I did. Yeah.
That's cool.
So I really enjoyed it. It was good. It was a good place.
I didn't know they had that. That's cool.
They did in our area. They had that. Each high school in the
had their own
surrounding
specialty kind of thing.
Yeah.
So one was like auto shop, and another one was that's cool.
One was like business focused. One was, I forget what the other, but there was like 6 of them. They all had something.
That's awesome. I love that. They're doing that out here now. They're starting to do that in the city that we're in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I interviewed the mayor, who I actually campaigned for, and one of the things. So he was on the school board before he became mayor, and the reason he decided to run for mayor was a bunch of the trustees in the school system came to him and said, you work really well. He's a Republican, but they said, you work really well with independents and Democrats, and, you reach across the aisle really well. And we think you'd be a really good mayor. We'd love for you to run for mayor. And the mayor at the time was not the best. And not a lot of people were very happy with him, And so he ran, and I campaigned for him, and he won. And so I got a chance to interview him, and he's got an amazing story. He was just 6 years ago, he was homeless and a drug addict.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And completely turned his life around. The court ordered him to go into rehab. He meets a guy that while he's in rehab, he meets a guy from a local church who likes mountain biking, and he liked mountain biking, and they became friends. And this guy had a daughter. He met this guy's daughter, married her, and now they've got 2 girls. And
Wow, that's
he's the
incredible.
mayor of the city that he used to be homeless and a drug addict in. So, I mean, what an amazing story, So,
More people need to know that.
oh
They
yeah.
know how much things can change.
Oh, I totally agree.
That's a
I
beautiful
totally
thing.
agree. And it came from, and he's got an amazing story. Like he was 30 days in rehab. This is an court-ordered rehab. He went to his mom 30 days in and said, it was a Friday night, and he said, I'm going to quit rehab because I've lost all my friends. I have no life. Everything's gone. Everything that I have is gone, which is normal because when you go through rehab, one of the first things they do is separate you or teach you to separate from the people that you used to, right?
Right.
Well, he used to run into these missionaries from this local church on the street because he was homeless. And they would invite him to go get a cup of coffee. They would invite him to go to lunch. They would invite him to come to, gatherings of, like a barbecue or whatever, right? And he always said no. And he never returned their texts, never returned their calls. That Friday night, he told his mom that he was going to quit rehab, and he thought she was going to kick him out. She said, just pray about it and be specific. Tell God specifically what it is you're looking for. So he did. The very next morning, he gets a text message from these missionaries, one of hundreds that he had received, but he'd never answered. And they asked him if he wanted to go to a barbecue that night. And all he did was respond yes. They sent him the information. He met him that night at this barbecue. And the rest is history. He made friends. He became active. He was invited to be more active in the church, that kind of thing. And so about 6 weeks later, I'm driving home and there's 2 missionaries walking down the street about a block from my house. I've never seen any missionaries in our neighborhood ever. And I got this word from God to turn my truck around and go tell them his story. And so I did. And they nearly started crying because at that moment, they needed that encouragement. They needed to know that even though they're making these calls and sending these text messages and reaching out and nobody's reaching back, they had an impact. You know what I mean? So it was cool.
Yeah.
Just
That's
one of
awesome.
those moments, right?
That's an incredible story. Like I said, I think
Crazy.
I don't blame you for sharing it. More people who know will be inspired.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you go to school, you're learning in high school you're learning culinary arts, right? You're learning how to become a chef. So
Right.
so this is a question that we probably already know the answer to, but what was your favorite subject in high school?
I don't think I had one. And I think when it came to culinary, I think it was at the time I was an athlete. I
Yeah.
really liked basketball.
Okay.
And the school that I was actually supposed to go to, like based on where my hometown was, they had it like their women's basketball team was amazing. Like I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have been able to play if I didn't go to the culinary school. So I think my real driver wasn't so much culinary, more so, oh, I'd get more play time or
Gotcha.
more attention if I went there. And I think that decision was made because of that.
That's
If I'm
awesome.
being honest with myself,
That's cool.
I wasn't a school person. I
Yeah.
really wasn't. So
Uh,
my favorite thing about high school was probably basketball.
yeah. My favorite subject was recess.
Yeah, you know,
I was
like
that kid
yeah,
that sat in school and looked out the window all the time, right? Because that's where
yeah,
I wanted to be, not in that class.
yeah. I just wasn't a school kid.
Yeah.
Just wasn't.
Yeah, me either. So let me ask you this. Who was the most influential person to you growing up?
Oh boy, that's rough. I don't know if I could say one. What I'll say is that the women in my family are very strong. So my mother, my grandmothers, were very, even my aunt, I grew up with very strong women.
Mhm.
So I think watching that always had an influence
That's
for
cool.
sure.
That's cool. So you graduate from high school. Where do you go?
I went to culinary school in Johnson and Wales. So I
Okay.
was there for about a year or two.
Okay.
And it was rough. I tried to play basketball out there. It wasn't working out. Didn't like the coach. I basically walked on the team. I think that's when I realized, oh, I had chose culinary, but really for basketball. And now I don't like basketball. So now what? Also Providence, just like I wasn't really finding my people there. I was
Yeah.
having a hard time. I also think I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Like I think we assume that kids right after they graduate high school are just supposed to be ready. They're supposed to know and they're supposed to go because everybody else goes and that's what you're supposed to do. And that's, there wasn't a choice. I think I felt a lot in my younger ages, like there wasn't choices. There were more like you're supposed to do this and this is what you do, whether I was ready or not.
Right.
So I was there for 2 years, and then I transferred out of there to Hofstra in Long
Mm.
Island,
Okay.
and I did, business there, and I chose business because my dad was in business. He seems to do well, so I was like, "Alright, well, I guess I'm doing gonna do this." So and then I graduated from there in 2010 with a business administration degree, and then I went on to do marketing from there.
Okay. So you go on to do marketing. Are you at a marketing company?
So when I graduated, I got hired very shortly after actually at Macy's. I did direct marketing there. So I
Okay.
worked in their corporate office, like on top of their store in Herald Square.
Okay.
That was my first marketing job. And, right away, I didn't stay home. Right away, I moved in with a roommate into the city. So I was in the city, 2010,
So
brand new job.
how long were you with Macy's?
I was with Macy's for 4 years.
Okay. Did you enjoy it?
No,
Okay.
no. It was direct marketing, so it was extremely analytical. We were, after 2 years in, we were short-staffed. Um, marketing's very broad. I don't know,
Mhm.
it's very broad, right? There's so many different parts of it. I ended up getting into like the more analytical operations part of marketing very early on, and that's just kind of the way my career ended up going, even though it's something that innately I wasn't good at, nor
Mm.
did I like, but it enabled at the time my social life, my lifestyle in the city. For graduating college, it was a pretty good job, but I was making pretty good money at that time.
Yeah.
And it was a reputable, company.
Yeah.
I was happy with where I ended up, considering I'm a person who doesn't like school and my way through it.
Right.
So, it was good. I learned from it, but was I happy there? No.
Yeah. I got you. So you leave Macy's, where do you go?
So I left Macy's. Then I think I maybe took a break. I tried working at agencies. I worked at a small boutique fitness gym, tried to do some marketing there. I mean, the common theme was I was trying to find different homes for this marketing stuff, but I really wasn't happy. Um, but then I ended up, so I worked at some agencies, a fitness gym, and then I ended up at Accenture, which
Mhm.
is a big consulting company.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Uh, I don't know the year that was, maybe 2016 or something like that. They hired me specific for like a global pharmaceutical company,
Mhm.
and never in my wildest dreams would I think I'd be doing like what I was doing at that type of level. It just kind of happened.
Mhm.
And I was there for 6 years and I worked my butt off every day for them.
Yeah.
Weekend. I mean, my computer was basically taped to my lap. Um, But, at least at that point, I, was growing within their company and I was doing very well. So, yeah, that was 6 years. But I would say by year 5 of that stint, I was very unhappy.
Yeah.
It's interesting. When you're younger, when I was like 18, 19, 20, you have this idea in your head of what you think your life should be.
Mhm.
And you make all of these choices that maybe aren't your own to get you there. And then once you're there, you can have everything, right? Because at that point in my life, once I was at Accenture already, I was there for 3 or 4 years, and I was living in a really nice New York City apartment, and I had all my friends were in the city. I got really lucky. Materialistically, I had everything. You reach that place in your life, and you look at yourself, and you're just so unhappy,
Yeah.
and the stress is just consuming you. And from the outside looking in, everybody looks at you like you have everything.
Right.
But I was really miserable. And not only that, I was physically like deteriorating because of
Yeah.
it. I don't think we realize how much stress the body takes on when we're really doing something that is so innately unaligned to who we are. And
Yeah.
I don't even think we realize sometimes that we're going down that path. And then once we go down that path, right? Like at me almost 30, because that was my age at the time, it's like, wow, I just built this entire life and I don't think it's mine. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think I'm happy here. And I think what most people think is like it's too late to turn around or to start making changes. But for me, that's something I felt I had to do.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like your body was screaming at you. Like I saw fibromyalgia, I saw TMJ. I mean, you're going through your experience, like your body's screaming at you, right? You're going
Oh,
through
yeah.
fibromyalgia is very painful. So is TMJ, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like your body's going, okay, we're not where we need to be. This
Yeah.
is not working. We're not taking this stress well,
Right.
right? And I mean, it's and was there one other thing that was happening too? Is fibromyalgia, TMJ?
I mean, it led to, I think the last 5 years, I've had a lot of health issues that came from the fibromyalgia and the TMJ. I think,
Yeah,
those are symptoms, right, of your body saying
yeah,
you're too stressed out. They're the symptoms. So I think ultimately what happens is that that opens the door to other things. Because once you have things like that, your immune system's not properly functioning,
yeah,
well, and things are just not functioning the way they should. And I think people don't realize that about stress. It's like, yeah, you're going to have the anxiety, the depression, you might develop fibromyalgia or certain things, but it's the larger picture of like viruses or other infections or things like that that seep in because you now develop these autoimmune conditions from it. And that's something I've had to deal with. The last 5 years of relearning myself have been some of the hardest because I've had other health issues on top of it. So, and it plays into my story because I believe it's a part of it. I think um the stress your body is going to take on from ultimately living a life that's not authentic to you is astronomical. I just don't think we always realize it.
yeah. Just
Uh,
the things that we know scientifically, right? Is that the more stress you're in, the more cortisol your body produces.
yes.
Cortisol creates inflammation.
Yep.
Inflammation causes things like fibromyalgia and TMJ and all these different, right? Even people have, joint disorder, right? Where
Mhm.
their joints are killing them and fibromyalgia is pain to the muscles, right? And it's something I've had, so I know a little bit about it, and probably not as much as you do, but it's something I've experienced. And what I found was if I used my body, which is completely antithetical to what fibromyalgia makes you want to sit still because if you move, you hurt, right? But I found if I use my body, I can to an extent reduce the cortisol in my body and it reduces the inflammation and I feel better, right? But you hurt like all get out when you first get started because your body's inflamed and you're hurting. You know what I mean? Like your body's telling you not to move is what I'm saying. And for me, I had to fight my way out of it. And I just basically had to just decide that I was going to gut it out. And I did,
Yeah.
and I'm better today
That's
than I was. I mean, I lost
that's great.
162 pounds altogether.
Oh, wow. Good for
Yeah.
you.
Well, I was,
Yeah. I
a
mean,
person.
I think the thing about fibro, it's different for everybody. So for me, I mean, I was a very active person. I jogged every day. I eat very well. It was other things that were causing it.
Yeah.
For me, my fibro was activated by the cold.
Yeah.
So me being in New York was probably the worst place I could be.
Yeah.
I also had emotional triggers that would trigger it. For me, fibro it has become a neurological thing. I think that's really what it is. Your nerve endings are all over your body.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that. And I think that's why a lot of doctors didn't recognize fibro as a thing because you can't really diagnose it.
Right.
It's not something that you can see. It's something you're going to see in an MRI, right? You know what I mean?
It's kind of
And
different for everybody.
it is. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. And if you read these like help groups, I feel terrible. There are people out there. They have a magnitude of different symptoms that scan the gamut of so many. Like what you're saying is like, opposite from me, and but it's terrible because it's a silent thing, and people really suffer. Most all doctors don't acknowledge it, and you really have to become your own advocate in understanding your body really well and what like what you did. And oh well, if I'm more active, this is working for me. And the thing is, it's not a one size fits all. And I tell people this all the time. Like, we tend to think, oh, someone's a doctor. I'm going to go to them and they're going to tell me what it is. And if they don't acknowledge it or if they say something different, okay, I don't believe in that. I think that we all
I don't
have to
either.
really, we have to say, how am I feeling? How does this feel? If I go on this treatment, how's it making my body feel? Like, don't just continue it because someone's telling you to if you're feeling like crap. So
Right.
these are the types of things where I'm hoping in the next couple of years there's a shift where patients feel empowered to understand that they play a role and they need to play a role for their own benefit.
Yeah. And that's why I feel like your story is so important, because so many people just take whatever a medical doctor says at face value, and they take, they take it as gospel, right? And they just go out and they take whatever comes off of that prescription pad. I think that's one of the most dangerous things in the world, that prescription pad, and the side effects and the things, the unintended consequences, so to speak, of the things they're trying to do to give you relief. They're not curing what ails you. They're just giving you a pill so you don't complain as much. And it's like, that doesn't fix it. You know what I mean?
No.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So I feel like people need to be empowered. And that's what I think Be True and Well is all about, is empowering people. Your story is something that people can read and hear, and it can empower them to become their own advocate. It also can empower them to be somebody else's advocate too.
Yeah, I want people to know that it's okay to be who they are.
Yeah.
Listen, when I was 12, 13, and in high school, when I had no idea, when I felt I wasn't ready for college or to make those decisions about who I wanted to be and what I wanted to be doing, at that time in my life, I spent all my time, and I mean, kids nowadays, God bless them. They're looking at TikTok and so many other factors. I mean, for me back then, we didn't have all that, right? So I'm just looking at the girls around me and my family and saying, what should I be doing? Who should I be? I think at that age, I changed myself. I really did. I made a note, like, I don't think it's okay that I'm not interested in what they're not interested in. And because I don't know, that means that I need to just follow what someone else did. And I think if somebody told me then, Carly, just what are you great at? And it doesn't have to be what we all think about all the time, because we're innately all good at something.
Yeah.
But I think most of us at that age, we're looking externally to understand what that is,
Yeah.
or we're copying someone else. And I wonder if someone said to me at that time, Carly, just be you, and that's enough. What you have is what no one else does. And the older you get, you're going to realize that that's the key to being successful. And it's not so much what you do, it's how you do it,
Yeah.
first of all. And second of all, that thing that you're really great at, maybe it's not so conventional, and maybe that's okay. Because if you go that conventional route like I did, and it really isn't for you, you're not going to be happy. I mean, and for me, I was unhappy. Maybe I went out and partied too much, but for other people, there's addiction. There's other things that come into play. And why not avoid all that, especially if you're a parent? I know parents like, I want my kid to be a lawyer. I want to get da-da-da. What is your kid great at? What can you see in them that they're amazing at? Is it painting? What is it?
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.